What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel Zaynomics Gaming. Today we are going to be reviewing Midnight Coup, but before we do though, I do want to let you guys know that I know I'm kind of like a week behind, give or take. I generally make these videos when I actually unlock a god roll or different roles to actually play with them before I actually make a video and make certain recommendations based off of PvE and PvP. So I apologize for being a little bit behind. I know Forbearance and Hammerhead were released this week. I do plan on playing and obtaining certain roles of those and then reviewing those weapons. The next weapon after Midnight Coup will be Mountaintop. I should have that out, I would say probably around Thursday again, but I do apologize. Now, with that out of the way, I hope you guys are doing well. Like I said, we are reviewing Midnight Coup. It is a hand cannon, 140 round per minute. It's been out for a long time. It was one of the first weapons that I've ever got inside of Destiny 2 when I played the Leviathan raid. If you guys played that raid or you're some OGs, of course you probably remember that weapon. It was absolutely one of my favorites of all time, specifically due to the lethality of these weapons. Back then, the raid weapons were actually the pinnacle of Destiny 2 at that time. Special weapons were different. There was a lot of different things inside of Destiny during that time. A lot of other legendary weapons, you could only get one trait. There were static rolls. So if you had a raid weapon, you were top dog. Like in PvP, like you could just literally pound on people. It was literally the definition of getting curb stomped if you did not complete a raid. Of course, we have many other weapons that were raid weapons, like Inaugural Address. That was one of my favorites. That had kill clip. It was a lethal pulse, and like I said, you could get 2 traits on there, whereas all other weapons only got 1 trait. So they were very special at that time. And Midnight Coup, I had like 20,000 kills with it. It was one of my favorite weapons, like I said, of all time. So I was very excited to see it come back. Especially since Leviathan's gone. Things have changed throughout the course of Destiny, and you know, of course, they outlived past their time. Of course, we ended up getting random rolls on all kinds of weapons and everything, so they definitely lived out their purpose and died when all of that occurred. So I'm happy to see them back. So like I said, we are going to go over different traits and what you should be grinding for when you are playing Onslaught. Now, first and foremost, the best way to actually farm for this weapon is to complete the bounty from our site, and then that would give you the ability to actually attune it, and then you will have more drops of Midnight Coup. You can do this for all the weapons that have released thus far. The weapons that haven't released yet, once those quests become available, then you will be able to complete those and attune those weapons as well. Now, it is a good time to actually grind for weapons, especially since today, in the patch notes today, Bungie has increased certain drop rates because if you have been using LFG and you've been trying to play Legend, a lot of groups have only been going to wave 10, resetting, going to wave 10 and then resetting to double their loot efforts, because after every wave boss completion on Legend, you get 2 chests versus 1 in the regular matchmaking. So a lot of teams were just going in and going to wave 10 and then getting the 2 chests and then dipping and then just restart, because it's easier in the first few waves and it gets harder as you go up. So to combat that, Bungie has actually increased drop rates on pretty much every wave, and I'm not going to get into too many specifics over it, but if you play Legend and you get to wave 30, 40, and 50, you will get an additional weapon drop. And then in Onslaught on matchmaking, I believe you get additional weapon drop on 40 and 50 wave. And then you also get more of the trophies of bravery. That way you can buy those chests. And like I said, right now is by far the easiest time to actually be grinding Onslaught, so you can get the weapons and the roles that you want from now until the final shape releases. So first and foremost, in the background gameplay, you see PvE. We're going to touch more on PvE compared to PvP, because I feel like this weapon centers more specifically around PvE than PvP. For me personally, there are other better hand cannons when it comes to PvP. But like I said, we will talk about the traits when we get to that point. But for PvE, I like Hammerforge rifling. There's a lot of other things that you could use, but you do get a +10 to range, specifically since this weapon hurts more in range. It starts off with a base stat of 40. So hammer forged rifling definitely kicks it up to 50. Now the mag trait is of course, it may be sort of controversial. I haven't really watched too many other people's videos, but for me specifically with this weapon, I actually like tactical mag. I know I normally don't recommend it, but it does give you a +10 for reload speed, a +5 for stability, and it does give a +1 in that mag. So it's really one of those deals where I enjoy the extra reload speed to kind of have that outlaw feel. I know with my next trait, it kind of overrides the +10 with reload. So it really just depends on you. I think appended mag and tactical mag are probably the best of the two. It really just depends on what you pair with in your next trait column, and we will touch on that. Now going into that third trait column, like I said, I really like Firefly. I feel like Firefly is probably the best perk here when it comes to PvE activities. Just overall, if you're playing like really high-end content, of course you got shoot to loot, which is really good because you can pick up ammo and orbs of power. And we also got explosive payload, and I want to talk a little bit more. I kind of want to guide you guys on what I'm thinking when I'm playing. So when I'm playing majority of the content in Destiny 2, I like Firefly. And Firefly reads, precision kills with this weapon increase reload speed and cause the target to explode, dealing solar damage to nearby enemies. And it basically states target explodes, dealing solar damage in a 4-meter radius. And it grants 50 reload speed for 6 seconds. So you can kind of see where tactical mag in the last column may not really fit here. So you can use appended mag, but it really just depends on you. I like tactical mag because I also like explosive payload. So when we're talking about actual grandmasters, and really I feel like grandmasters are probably the hardest content in the game. If we're playing grandmasters, I'll specifically want to use explosive payload. Projectiles create an area effect of detonation on impact, and I would pair that with kinetic tremors in the 4th column. So if I went with that specific role with explosive payload instead of Firefly, then you can see where the tactical mag will come into play, and having that +10 reload speed will actually help you. So you know, it's one of those give or take options. It depends on the role that you get when you're actually playing the game. So for the first god role, I would say, so we're not getting too confused, I like hammer forged rifling, tactical mag, and then I like Firefly for most of our regular gameplay in Destiny 2. And when I mean regular, I'm pretty much talking about the whole game of Destiny 2. You could get away using Firefly over the explosive payload. I would only use explosive payload in Grandmaster content, which, like I said, is probably the hardest content in the game. So if I'm going to use Firefly in the 3rd trait column, what am I going to use in the 4th trait column? Well, I'm glad you asked. I'll answer that question for you. With Firefly, I would actually go with one for all, because with that explosion, you get 1 crit on a miner. That blast radius actually counts as hitting 3 other targets. With one for all, it states hitting 3 separate targets increases damage for a moderate duration. Now this is a 35% increased damage for 10 seconds. So the buff can't be refreshed. You'll always have to continuously reproc it after the 10 seconds, but it's very easy to do with the explosions. So this is why this specific trait is, well, this specific role is very, very popular amongst the community, and it's very powerful. You pair this up with a good energy special or energy primary or whatever playstyle you're really trying to go for, and you'll have a great setup. But I really love the Firefly one for all combo just because you do get a lot of damage. Now, the bad thing is I haven't been able to actually get this role. I haven't even been able to get a role with one for all at all. So none of the background gameplay that you see has one for all in it. I tried so hard to get the god role, so I'm actually still hunting for that role. I do have a couple roles with Firefly, but I just didn't get one for all, which is unfortunate. I do have the god role Mountaintop though, but we're not doing a video on Mountaintop right now. So in the next video we'll cover that, but that would be the god role for me in PvE for most of this regular content in the game. Unless you're playing Grandmaster Nightfalls, I would stick with Firefly and one for all day long. Now some of the common questions you'll get is like Rampage. That's an OG perk or trait, whatever you want to call it. I'll say trait. It's an OG trait, but at 3 stacks it only gives you 33%. One for all gives you 35%, and all you gotta do is get 1 explosion, and it counts as hitting 3 separate targets, so it's easier setup. Frenzy, you gotta be in combat. It does refresh. It does give you some additional benefits like 100 handling, 100 reload speed for 7 seconds, as long as you're in combat the whole time. Great perk for very low end content, and it does give you a 15% damage increase. But with Firefly, if you're able to get just a 1-shot kill, bam, you got 1 for all. Now you got a 35% damage increase. So I would take 1 for all over Frenzy. It really just depends on you. Now Desperate Measures, that's a new perk. It basically states weapon kills, or weapon final blows, grant bonus damage. Melee and grenade final blows grant a larger damage bonus that can stack. And weapon kills will grant a 10% increase in damage for 7 seconds. That sucks. I don't recommend that. Grenade or melee kills grant 20% increase, and then scoring another grenade or melee kill increases this to 30%. I feel like this perk is useless on this weapon. I don't recommend keeping rolls of it. I do have a roll of it, but I just kept it because I don't have 1 for all right now. 1 for all day long. It's the easiest perk to proc. With this right here, you got to do extra stuff. There's extra hoops that you got to jump through to only get 30%. 1 for all gives you the highest base damage increase, and all you have to do is get 1 kill with the explosion of Firefly. You'll hit your 3 separate targets. Bam, you got a 35% damage increase for 10 seconds. 10 seconds. That's a long time in Destiny 2. Now, what if you're like, hey, I play Grandmaster Nightfalls all the time? Well, if that's the case, I would try to hunt for, of course, one of the full weapons, just because you can get 4 traits on there. And like I said, these will be enhanceable. I mentioned that in my last video, but I'm going to mention it now as well. All these traits will be enhanceable when the final shape comes out. But if you play Grandmaster Nightfalls all the time, I still recommend either Tactical Mag or Appended Mag. But for the 3rd trait column, I actually recommend Explosive Payload, just because it does give that detonation on the area effect damage. And it works. It pairs very nicely with Kinetic Tremors. Kinetic Tremors is a top tier trait for all kinetic weapons. I highly recommend you get it. It works very well in Grandmaster Nightfalls. It does emit 3 bursts, shockwaves from the enemy's location, and that is additional damage that you could stack on when you are peeking or playing behind cover when playing in those Grandmaster style situations, because in Grandmasters everything could tear you up. So it's kind of like one of those deals where you get additional damage with less work. You don't have to be out in the open or anything like that. Now the bad thing about this with Kinetic Tremors is you can only really get roughly, I believe, 15 shots, 14 to 15 shots inside of Midnight Coup if you run a backup mag mod. So to proc Kinetic Tremors, you have to have 6 shots on a target to actually emit the shockwave. And now that does kind of hurt with hand cannons. It's okay on like auto rifles, especially scout rifles. Really good on scout rifles, really good on sidearms. But man, hand cannons, they want you to blow through half of your mag just to proc Kinetic Tremors, and it does suck. I'm not gonna lie, it does suck. And that's why typically in Grandmasters I usually run a scout rifle, just because it has the best ratio when actually proccing Kinetic Tremors. But if you are trying to go for a roll and you've got to use a hand cannon in PvE for Grandmaster content, I still recommend getting Kinetic Tremors, just because it's that good. It can do that sustained damage while you are behind cover. That way you mitigate yourself from actually dying. It helps you save your life. It really works very well. It controls ad density, and it will get you those completions and that sweet loot that you are looking for. And like I said, guys, it would be the only time that I would really recommend this combination is if you're playing Grandmaster content. Like I said, Explosive Payload or Kinetic Tremors, those two are the best combination when it comes to tackling those Grandmaster Nightfalls, if you choose to use Midnight Coup. Now, would I personally use it? Probably not. It's just not worth it when you're playing Grandmaster. I prefer the Scout Rifle. Now, in Legend Onslaught, all these other activities that are like Legend difficulty, maybe Master difficulty, Firefly and 1 for all day long, especially if you're doing a match made activity. Firefly one for all is very nice to have that big damage bonus. And then like I said, you could either throw a backup mag mod on it, or you could throw a major spec, ball spec, minor spec, get a little bit extra damage as well. And it does bring back a lot of memories. I miss shooting this weapon, and it was a lot of fun to play with. And like I said, I definitely look at this weapon as a PvE based weapon. Now we are going to touch on PvP real quick because I don't want to make this video too long. It's already 15 minutes. I feel like it's too long already. But yeah, we're going to jump into it really quickly. The perks that you should be going for if you plan on using this hand cannon inside of PvP. Now, first and foremost with this weapon, no matter what, if you're tier 10 resilience and under, it will take 3 crits. That will kill you in 0.87 seconds. Now we can up that and make that a little bit quicker. And it just depends on the perks that you have, or the traits that you have, and we'll go from there. Now in that first column, I still plan on sticking with hammer forged rifling. That will give you that plus 10. Then for the mag perk, I would go with accurized rounds. That give you another plus 10. That'll put you at 70 range. That is very good. And then for my third trait column, I like moving target. It's pretty much a standout PvP perk. It does boost that aim assistance, and it does give you faster strafing speed when you are aiming down sight, so it's perfect for one-on-one duels. Now of course you can use explosive payload, you can use firefly. That's really subjective, it's really up to you, but I like moving target. It is centered around PvP, and like I said, it does give that plus 10 aim assistance while you're aiming down sights, and it does give you that faster strafing speed. Now for that fourth trait column, we don't have anything here that will actually improve our time to kill other than one for all, and you really have to be cooking. And also too, you have to jump through more hoops because you got to hit 3 separate targets to actually proc it, and it's really only viable if you're tier 3 and under, which will get the kill in 0.4 seconds with 2 crits. Other than that, one for one, that's going to be very hard to do just with the state of the crucible. And then 2, pretty much everything else, tier 10 all the way down to tier 4, you will get the kill in 0.8 seconds. It doesn't matter how much of a damage increase. You can add more forgiveness, but you're not going to get a faster time to kill unless they're tier 3 and under, and you proc one for all. Rampage times 3 is still only going to give you a 0.87 seconds time to kill, but it will give you better forgiveness if you were able to actually proc that, which is highly unlikely. It's very hard to do, like I said, and it does add more forgiveness, but it's not going to be my say all end all style perk. Really for that last trait column, I like either Zen Moment or Opening Shot. I think Zen Moment's a little bit better just because of the rework that it had and how much more consistent it is. And it basically states causing damage with this weapon reduces recoil and flinch over time. It also reduces visual weapon shake by 34%, reduces reticle bounce by 34%, and it grants flinch resistance. So it really helps out with the consistency of the weapon when you're actually in those duels. It helps with those 1v1s. Now of course with our masterwork with PvE and PvP, of course I'm gonna go at range if you're able to get that. Now these roles are fairly easy to grind for. Unfortunately, I do not have my god roll out of Midnight Coup. Now if you're really lucky, if you're very lucky, and you're able to get a full weapon drop, or the shiny rolls, your absolute 10 out of 10 god roll would be hammer forged rifling with tactical mag or accurized rounds, and then you would want firefly, moving target, and then in the fourth trait column you'd want Zen Moment and one for all. That is the absolute god roll with a ranged masterwork. That is the absolute god roll of this weapon. You wouldn't even need to attune it or grind for it no more. You would have the best version of this weapon possible inside of Destiny 2. Now I know this was a long video, guys. I appreciate you for sticking around. I appreciate all the new subscribers here lately. Thank you so much for watching my content. It's been a pleasure. We are going to be doing a video on Mountaintop, so stay tuned for that. Like I said, that should be out Thursday, I'm hoping. And then I'm going to get on Destiny 2, and we're going to grind for Hammerhead and Forbearance. I know people aren't really excited about Forbearance, but we're still going to go over the God Roll Guide. And specifically, I don't even have one. I never really played Val Disciple, so I'm interested in playing it, seeing what it can do, if it's even worth it at this point, as it's later on in its life. Almost 2 years old now, so, well, over 2 years old now, so I appreciate all you guys for watching. Like I said, If you like this video, don't forget to actually like this video and consider subscribing to my channel. It's a free way to support me. I greatly appreciate it. I hope you all have a wonderful day and a wonderful week. I will see you all in my next video.